Before we begin, I invite you to set aside, just for a while, the weight you have been carrying. You don't have to fix anything right now. You don't have to solve every problem before the night is over. You are here, and that is enough. Perhaps your day has been long. Perhaps the voices, the screens, the endless requests for your attention have left you feeling scattered. Or maybe beneath the quiet, there's a subtle hum of tension that never quite leaves. A feeling you've grown so used to that you no longer notice it, until moments like this, when you finally stop. And so, let us stop, together. Imagine for a moment that you are standing at the edge of a garden you've never seen before. The air is cool, scented with pine and faint blossoms you can't yet name. Somewhere ahead, water is moving, not rushing, not urgent, just flowing, as it always has, long before your worries were born. You step inside, and the noise of the outside world fades behind you like a distant echo. Here, there is only the sound of your breath. Here, you are allowed to be unhurried. Here, nothing demands you to be more than you already are. In the next few hours, we will walk together through this garden of ancient Zen wisdom. We will sit in its shaded corners, listen to its stillness, and remember truths that the modern world has made us forget. These are not stories for monks alone. They are for you, a human being living in a world that moves too fast, who longs to feel whole again. If you are tired of being pulled in every direction, if you are ready to discover a calm that no chaos can steal, then take this first step with me. We begin not with doing, but with arriving. Part 1. The Invitation to Stillness. You are here, not yesterday, not tomorrow, here. And though the mind may try to run ahead or fall behind, for this moment we will not chase it. We will let it settle, the way a handful of snow settles in still air, each flake floating gently until the earth receives it. I want you to imagine that you are stepping deeper into that garden you saw a moment ago. The path under your feet is not paved. It is soft with moss and fallen leaves that release a faint, earthy scent as you walk. Each step lands without effort. There is no rush. The air touches your face like cool silk. Somewhere far away, a bird calls once and then is silent again, as if it knows this place belongs to quiet. We so rarely give ourselves permission to arrive fully. We live on the surface, skating from task to task, thought to thought, never noticing the still lake beneath. But the ancient Zen masters knew that before any technique, before any discipline, there must be arrival. They called it shikantaza, just sitting, but it means more than the words suggest. It is the art of letting the body and mind be exactly where they are, without pulling them toward a better place. And so, I invite you now to simply arrive. Let your breath be a lantern, guiding you back each time your mind wanders away. You don't have to force it. Simply notice the rise of your chest, the way air curls inside you, the way it leaves again. In this simple noticing, you have already begun. You are practicing what the modern world has forgotten, the act of being. I want to tell you a story the old masters would share by the glow of a single candle. It is about a young traveler who came to a Zen temple high in the mountains seeking wisdom. He had walked for days, his mind burning with questions about life, death, purpose, and peace. When he finally reached the temple, the master said only this: "Sit." The traveler was confused. He expected teachings, scriptures, secrets whispered behind closed doors. But the master simply placed him on a wooden bench facing the garden and left him there. Hours passed. The wind shifted. Shadows lengthened across the moss. At first, the traveler's mind screamed, "Why am I here? What am I supposed to learn?" Then, slowly, something softened. His breath deepened. The air seemed sweeter. The sound of a single cicada was no longer background noise. It was the only sound in the world. By the time the master returned, the young man's eyes were wet. "I understand," he whispered. And the master simply smiled. What had changed? Nothing outside him. What had shifted? Everything within. The invitation to stillness is not a promise that your life will suddenly be free from stress, nor that the world will stop demanding your attention. It is instead the gentle assurance that you can meet all of it from a place that is not disturbed. Take a slow, deep breath now, and imagine that every inhale draws in calm, and every exhale lets go of what you no longer need. Perhaps that is worry about something that hasn't happened yet. Perhaps it is a memory that clings like a shadow. Perhaps it is the tightness in your shoulders or the restless tapping of your foot. Breathe it out. Let it fall to the moss at your feet. Zen does not ask you to become someone else. It does not ask you to shave your head, wear robes, or sit for hours in a silent hall. It asks you only this, to return again and again to the present. We can begin with 3 breaths together. First breath, feel the air cool as it enters. Hold it gently like a gift. Let it leave without regret. Second breath, notice the way your ribs expand, the subtle shift of your spine, the grounding weight of your body. Third breath, imagine the space inside you widening, as if the walls of your chest have melted into the horizon. In this way, breath by breath, you create a quiet room inside yourself. You can carry it anywhere, into the grocery store, the office, the waiting room, the crowded highway. Even there, surrounded by noise, you can enter your quiet room. No one will know, but you will feel it. The door closing, the air becoming still, the world softening. The masters often compared this state to a clear pond. When the water is stirred, you cannot see the reflection of the moon. But when it rests, the moon appears effortlessly. You don't have to chase the image, you only have to let the water settle. So we begin here, not with a technique you must master overnight, but with an invitation you can accept right now. To be still enough that the reflection of your own life appears clearly. This is the first step in turning the chaos of modern living into a rhythm that feels natural, gentle, and deeply human. In the hours ahead, we will walk through other gates: the gate of breath, the gate of awareness, the gate of letting go, the gate of resilience. But each of these rests on this foundation: that you know how to arrive and that you are willing to stay, even for a moment. Listen to the sound of your own breathing now. Let it be the slow tide that carries you deeper into yourself. Because the truth is, stillness is not something you find, it is something you uncover, like a stone in the river that has been there all along, waiting beneath the current. And in that uncovering, you will remember, you have never been separate from peace. Part 2. Why the world feels so heavy. The stillness you touched just now, that soft clearing in the middle of your day, can feel almost fragile when you carry it back into the world. It is like holding a small flame in your hands. Outside, there is wind. There are people rushing past, voices rising, the metal hum of machines, the sharp edges of deadlines. Even the air itself seems charged with urgency. You have probably felt this, the way tension begins before you even know it has arrived. Perhaps it starts when you wake, the phone lighting up with messages, the news telling you how much has gone wrong overnight. Or maybe it is subtler, the silent weight of a to-do list that stretches far past the edges of the page. It is a constant pressure, not unlike a stone in your shoe. You can keep walking with it, but every step is just a little more uncomfortable than it should be. The modern world has a way of multiplying that stone. 100 years ago, if you wanted to hear from someone, you might wait weeks for a letter. Now, you are expected to reply within minutes, even seconds. Work doesn't end at the office door, it follows you home in your pocket. And the measure of worth has quietly shifted from the depth of your days to the speed of your responses. The Zen masters of old lived in a different rhythm. They knew hunger, they knew hardship, but they also knew the value of a single, uninterrupted task. A monk might spend the entire morning fetching water from a stream, walking back slowly, each step its own meditation. In contrast, we try to fetch water while answering a message, stirring a pot, and thinking about a meeting later in the week. Our minds are stretched across so many thin threads that they never truly return home. This is why life feels heavy, because it is not just the weight of what you carry, but the way you carry it. It is as if you have been asked to hold a cup of water perfectly still while walking across a crowded marketplace. The cup is not large, the water not heavy, yet by the end, your hands ache, your shoulders tighten, and you wonder why such a small thing feels exhausting. Zen offers another way. It does not remove the marketplace, but it teaches you how to hold the cup without strain, to let the water move with you instead of fighting it. Let me tell you a story from Kyoto centuries ago. There was a merchant known for his restless energy. From dawn until well past dusk, he managed his shop, calculated accounts, and traveled between markets. His friends admired his success, but noticed he never smiled. One evening, during a rare moment of stillness, he visited a tea house at the edge of the city. The host was an elderly man, slow-moving, with a gaze like a calm river. The merchant watched as the host prepared tea, pouring water, whisking the matcha, placing each cup before the guests. No motion was wasted, yet nothing was hurried. When the merchant sipped the tea, he felt something unfamiliar, not in the taste, but in the way his chest seemed to loosen. "What is this feeling?" he asked. The host replied, "It is the weight you have been carrying, set down for just a moment." The merchant returned the next night and the night after, not for the tea, but for the way the host moved, the way he seemed untouched by the rush of the city. Eventually, the host explained, "The world will always be heavy, my friend, but you do not have to carry it all at once. Each breath, each gesture can be its own moment. One cup of tea and nothing else. That is enough." In our own time, we rarely finish one thing before beginning another. Even in rest, we reach for distraction, a glowing screen, a constant stream of updates. We fill the spaces where silence might heal us. And so the heaviness grows, not just from what we do, but from what we never allow ourselves to release. This is not to blame you, but to remind you, the design of modern life is not built for your peace. If you feel overwhelmed, it is not because you are weak. It is because you have been swimming against a current that never stops. Zen asks us to step out of that current, even for a breath, and feel what it is like to stand on the shore. You can begin simply. The next time you are eating, eat only. Let the fork rest between bites. Notice the texture of each mouthful. Taste fully, without reaching for the next before the current one is gone. The next time you walk, walk only. Let the body's rhythm become clear. Feel the way your foot meets the ground, the subtle shift of your balance. These are small acts, but they are the seeds of a different way of being. One where the weight of the world is not pressing so hard against your ribs. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting in your own home, but with the stillness of that tea house in Kyoto. The sounds are the same, the hum of the refrigerator, the faint traffic outside. Yet they do not pull at you. They pass through you like wind through tall grass. This is what Zen practice offers. Not escape from life, but a change in how life touches you. As you breathe now, notice if anything in your body feels lighter. It might be subtle, a softening around the eyes, a loosening of the jaw. These are the first signs that the flame you carry, that stillness from part 1, can survive even in the wind. In the next part, we will step into the first true practice, the power of mindful breathing. You will see why the masters began here and why something so simple can untangle knots that years of effort could not. For now, hold this thought gently. The world may be heavy, but your hands can learn to carry it lightly. Part 3. The breath that changes everything. There is a moment, if you watch closely, when your breath changes on its own. Perhaps you are looking out at the ocean, and a wave arrives that seems to belong to you, its rise and fall matching something deep inside. You notice that you are no longer breathing in the hurried, shallow way you do when your mind is crowded. Instead, the air moves more slowly, filling you as if it knows there is time. This is the nature of the breath when it is left undisturbed, steady, patient, enough. The Zen masters began here because they understood a truth we often forget, that the breath is not just a function of survival, but a bridge. It connects body and mind, inner and outer worlds. It anchors us when everything else is shifting. In the modern world, breathing is something we rarely notice. It becomes automatic, lost beneath layers of thought. We breathe as we hurry, we breathe as we worry, and so the breath itself becomes shallow, tense, mirroring the state of our minds. But if you change the breath, you change the mind. Let me tell you a story from the early days of Zen in Japan. A young novice was assigned to work in the temple's kitchen, a noisy, hot place with endless tasks. He despised it. He thought Zen training meant sitting in serene silence, not chopping vegetables with sweat dripping down his face. One afternoon, his frustration overflowed. He dropped his knife and stormed into the abbot's room. "This is not why I came here," he said. "I came to learn peace, not to be a cook." The abbot listened without interruption. When the young man finished, the abbot asked, "When you are chopping vegetables, where is your breath?" The novice blinked, confused. "Is it high in your chest? Is it caught in your throat? Is it rushing as if it is trying to keep up with your mind?" The novice realized he had no answer. He had never paid attention. "Return to the kitchen," the abbot said. "Do not try to be peaceful. Only breathe and cut." Reluctantly, the young man obeyed. At first, he forgot again and again. His mind wandered to his resentment, to his longing for the meditation hall. But each time he remembered, he slowed his breath. Inhale, the scent of scallions rising. Exhale, the steady tap of the knife on the board. Days passed. The work did not change, but the novice did. By the end of the week, he found that the kitchen no longer felt like a punishment. It had become a place where his mind could rest, simply because his breath had learned how to lead. You may not be chopping vegetables in a temple kitchen, but your life has its own equivalent. The moments you dislike, the tasks you rush through, the noise you wish you could escape. You can't always change the task, but you can change the way you breathe while you do it. Let's try this together now. Sit in a way that feels natural. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. Close your eyes if that feels safe, or soften your gaze. Place one hand on your chest and one on your lower belly. Take a slow breath in through your nose, letting the air travel all the way down so that the hand on your belly rises before the one on your chest. Pause gently, not holding, just allowing. Then let the air leave through your mouth, slowly, as if you are fogging a mirror. Do this again, and notice how the body responds. Perhaps a loosening of tension, perhaps a quieting of the pulse. This is not about forcing calm. It is about giving your body the conditions where calm can find you. The masters knew that if you could change the way you breathe, you could change the way you live. They often spoke of hara, the center just below the navel, as the seat of groundedness. Breathing from here keeps you rooted, even in the middle of a storm. In our time, stress lives in the upper chest. It shortens the breath, making it quick and shallow, signaling to the body that danger is near, even when there is none. By moving the breath downward, we send a different message. It's safe now. You can rest. You may notice resistance. The mind will want to race ahead, to check what's next, to solve a problem that hasn't happened yet. That's all right. Each time you notice, guide it back, not with force, but with the same gentleness you would use to lead a child back onto the path. Think of your breath as a friend who has been trying to speak to you for years, but you have been too busy to listen. Now you are finally sitting together. You are hearing the stories it has been waiting to tell. And here is the secret the abbot in our story knew. When you practice breathing like this, you are rewiring yourself. Science confirms what Zen understood centuries ago. Mindful breathing can calm the amygdala, regulate the heartbeat, lower blood pressure, and improve focus. But beyond the science, there is something more intimate. The realization that you are not powerless before your stress. You have, in your own lungs, a key. If you practice, even for a few minutes each day, you may begin to notice that your breath arrives to help you before the tension takes root. You might be in traffic or in a difficult conversation, and without thinking, you'll feel the breath deepen, anchoring you before the mind spins out. This is why the breath changes everything. Because once you learn to follow it back to that quiet place inside, you can go there anytime. In the middle of a crowded street, in a noisy room, or lying awake at night when the world feels too loud. So take one more slow, full breath now. Inhale until the belly expands. Pause. Exhale until the body softens. Remember this. Carry it with you. Because in the next part, we will take the foundation you have built here and step into the heart of Zen awareness, learning not only to breathe, but to be fully present in each moment you are given. Part 4. Escaping the hamster wheel of thought. Even with the breath as an anchor, the mind has a habit of running, like a small animal in a wheel, its legs moving fast but going nowhere. You know this feeling. You lie in bed, ready for rest, but the mind replays conversations from years ago, imagines outcomes that may never happen, writes and rewrites scenarios as if they were scripts for a play no one will ever perform. The wheel keeps spinning. Zen calls this monkey mind, a restless creature swinging from thought to thought, unable to stay still. It is not an enemy, though it may feel like one. It is simply the mind doing what it has been trained to do. Chase after stimulation, leap toward what it fears, grab at what it desires. The problem is not the mind's movement, but our identification with it. We forget that we are not the wheel. We are the one watching it turn. Let me share a story told in an old mountain temple. A novice approached his teacher and said, "My thoughts never stop. They chase me like wild dogs. I try to fight them, but I lose every time." The teacher poured a cup of tea until it overflowed onto the table. The novice jumped back. "You are the cup," the teacher said. "Your thoughts are the tea. There is nothing wrong with tea, but if you keep pouring without emptying, it will spill everywhere. Learn to drink slowly." This is the heart of escaping the hamster wheel. Not destroying thoughts, but changing your relationship to them. The breath you have been practicing is your first tool. Each time you feel the wheel spinning faster, you can step off for a moment. Breathe in, and instead of chasing the thought, watch it pass like a cloud. Breathe out, and let it drift away without pulling you with it. You may find at first that you get pulled in anyway. That is fine. The path is not about never wandering. It is about always returning. The Zen masters say, fall down 7 times, get up 8. In meditation, that means notice the mind has wandered and gently bring it back, again and again. No judgment, no frustration, only returning. There is a practice for this, and it begins with something very small. Choose an ordinary activity, perhaps making your morning coffee. From the moment you reach for the cup to the moment you take the first sip, keep your attention here. Feel the weight of the mug, the warmth as it fills, the scent rising into the air. If thoughts about the day appear, acknowledge them like passing strangers, but don't follow them down the street. This is meditation in motion. This is stepping out of the wheel. When you live this way, even for a few minutes at a time, you begin to notice something unexpected. The wheel slows on its own. The mind no longer burns so much energy chasing what it cannot hold. Space opens between thoughts, like the sky breaking through clouds. In that space, there is room to breathe. I once knew a man who lived in the city but longed for the countryside. He spoke often of his dream to escape the noise, believing that peace waited somewhere far away. One day, a Zen teacher visited his home. Instead of offering advice, the teacher sat in silence on the man's balcony, listening to the traffic below. After a while, he smiled and said, "The countryside is already here. You've just been too busy listening to the cars to hear the birds." This is the gift of escaping the wheel. You realize that peace is not a destination, but a shift in attention. You may still have deadlines, conversations, bills to pay, but you are no longer trapped inside the endless motion of your own mind. Let's practice now. Close your eyes or lower your gaze. Bring your awareness to the breath you learned in Part 3. When a thought appears, perhaps about tomorrow, perhaps about something unresolved, imagine it as a leaf on a stream. See it float past. Resist the urge to pick it up. Another thought may come. Place it on the water as well. Watch it drift. Continue until the stream slows, until you begin to notice the water itself, not just the leaves. The water is always there. The leaves will always come and go, but you can choose to watch without grasping. This is freedom from the wheel. In the modern world, where stimulation is constant and silence is rare, this skill becomes a form of survival. Without it, the wheel turns faster every year, wearing grooves into your mind. With it, you can pause in the middle of chaos, reclaiming moments that might otherwise be lost. In time, you may discover that the mind, once tamed, becomes a trusted ally. Its energy, no longer wasted on useless spinning, can be directed toward creativity, compassion, and presence. You will still think, of course you will, but the thinking will feel spacious, like gentle waves instead of a storm. So, the next time you feel caught in an endless loop, replaying a conversation, imagining outcomes, worrying over details, remember this. You have stepped into the wheel many times before, and you can step out again. All it takes is one breath and the willingness to watch rather than chase. In the next part, we will explore how to bring this awareness into the smallest details of daily life, turning the most ordinary tasks into doorways to peace. Because once you know how to leave the wheel, you can find stillness anywhere, even while washing dishes or folding laundry. Part 5. The Zen of Ordinary Tasks. The wheel slows, the breath steadies, and in that quiet, You begin to see the life that has been waiting underneath the rush, a life made not of grand events, but of small, ordinary moments strung together like beads on a string. Zen teaches us that enlightenment is not hidden in mountain caves or distant temples. It is in the way you wash a cup. It is in the way you fold a shirt. It is in the way you sweep the floor, peel an orange, tie your shoes. For most of us, these moments are invisible. We treat them as bridges to somewhere else, the thing we do so we can get to the important part. We wash the dishes so the kitchen is clean. We sweep the floor so we can rest. We tie our shoes so we can leave. But in Zen, the doing itself is the point. The moment your hands are in the warm water, the moment the broom moves across the floor, these are not the prelude, they are the music. There is a story of an elderly monk who was famous for his sweeping. Visitors to the temple would see him in the courtyard, broom in hand, moving slowly and deliberately. The stones beneath him would gleam, the air itself seeming lighter after he passed. One day, a young monk asked, "Why do you sweep so carefully? Won't the wind bring more leaves tomorrow?" The old monk smiled. "I sweep not to have a clean courtyard, but to have a clean heart." This is the Zen of ordinary tasks, transforming what might feel like a chore into a practice of presence. You can begin this right now with something you do every day. Let's take the act of washing dishes. Instead of rushing through, feel the warmth of the water on your hands. Notice the way the bubbles form and break. Feel the weight of the plate, the smoothness under your fingers. Each motion becomes intentional, lifting, rinsing, placing. You breathe, and the task unfolds without resistance. There is no need to be anywhere else. You are here, and that is enough. The same applies to folding laundry. Instead of hurrying, feel the texture of the fabric. Notice the sound it makes as it folds over itself. Smell the faint trace of soap. The clothes are not just clothes. They are the warmth that will wrap around someone you love, or the comfort that will meet you at the end of the day. When you inhabit a task fully, the mind cannot spin in the same way. The wheel from part 4 finds no fuel because you have given yourself to what is in front of you. This is not mindless work. It is mindful living. In the modern world, where productivity often overshadows presence, this can feel strange at first. You may notice the urge to check your phone, to think about the next item on your list. But each time you notice, you can return to the task. Just as in meditation, you return to the breath. The task becomes your breath. I remember visiting a small monastery where the midday meal was prepared entirely in silence. The monks moved like a slow dance, chopping, stirring, arranging. I asked one of them later if the silence was meant to be a discipline, a way of controlling the mind. He shook his head. "Silence is not a rule," he said. "It is simply what happens when you are paying attention." This is the heart of the Zen approach to ordinary life. When you give yourself fully to the moment, unnecessary noise falls away. There is no boredom, no rush, only the act itself and the deep satisfaction it brings. Let's try a short guided practice. Think of something you can do with your hands right now, perhaps holding a cup of tea, or even resting them in your lap. Notice the weight. Notice the temperature. Feel how your hands connect with the object or with each other. Let your attention rest here, as if this simple contact were the most important thing in the world. Breathe and keep feeling. This is not a trick to make chores more bearable. It is a way of reclaiming your life from the constant pull of what's next. When you inhabit the present, even the smallest acts become sacred. Over time, this practice begins to change how you approach everything. Waiting in line becomes a chance to notice your breath. Walking to the mailbox becomes a meditation in movement. Cooking dinner becomes a quiet ritual of gratitude. The ancient masters knew that life is not measured in years or accomplishments, but in the depth of each moment lived. Ordinary tasks are the perfect training ground because they are always here, waiting for your attention. And there is another gift in this practice. It softens the mind's resistance to impermanence. You fold a shirt knowing it will be worn and need folding again. You sweep the floor knowing dust will return. You wash a dish knowing it will be dirty tomorrow. Yet you do it with care, without frustration, because the doing is the reward. In this way, ordinary tasks teach us to live without clinging, to meet each moment, complete it, and let it go. The next time you face a task you usually rush through, pause. Ask yourself, what if this is the only thing I need to do right now? And then let yourself do it, fully, with your whole being. Notice how even the simplest work can open a door to calm. In the next part, we will step through another door, the gentle art of letting go. We will explore how impermanence, often feared, can become one of the most liberating truths in your life. But for now, remember, the sacred is not somewhere far away. It is in your hands, in the warm water, in the sound of a broom on stone. It is in the ordinary, waiting to be seen. Part 6. The Gentle Art of Letting Go. There is a moment, just before the leaves fall in autumn, when they seem to loosen their grip. They do not struggle. They do not cling. One day, they are simply ready, and the wind carries them without resistance. We, too, are asked to let go, though for us, it is rarely so effortless. We cling to objects, to identities, to people, to seasons of life we wish could stay a little longer. We hold on to stories about ourselves, even when those stories no longer fit. And most of all, we hold on to the past, the joys, the regrets, the wounds. Zen does not teach us to let go by force. It does not tell us to push things away, to harden ourselves, or to pretend we do not care. Instead, it invites us to loosen our grip, to see that the things we cling to were never truly ours to keep. I remember a story told by an old monk in a temple nestled deep in the hills. A traveler came to him carrying a heavy bundle on his back. The monk invited him to tea, but the man refused to set down his bundle, afraid it might be stolen. The tea grew cold. Finally, the monk said, "You have been carrying this burden all day. It is heavy, yes, but it is your choice to keep holding it. Even if you set it down for a moment, it will still be here when you are ready to take it again." The traveler hesitated, then slowly placed the bundle on the ground. Only then did he notice how sore his shoulders had become, how much his back ached. Sometimes we do not realize the cost of holding on until we let go. Letting go begins with noticing what you are holding. Perhaps it is an old resentment, the echo of a conversation that ended badly years ago. Perhaps it is a hope that someone will change, or that the past could be rewritten. Perhaps it is an image of yourself, always strong, always capable, that makes it hard to admit when you are tired. Whatever it is, notice the weight of it. Feel where it lives in your body. Is it in your chest, tight and unmoving? In your stomach, like a knot? In your jaw, clenched without your knowing? Now imagine loosening your grip, even just a little. You do not have to drop it completely. You only have to allow the possibility that it might be okay to set it down, even for a breath. This is where the breath becomes your companion again. Inhale, fill your body with the sense of spaciousness. Exhale, release something small. It might be the tension in your shoulders, the way your brow furrows, the clench in your hands. With each exhale, you create room for something else to enter: peace, ease, a softness that has been waiting at the edges. The Zen masters often spoke of impermanence not as a tragedy, but as a gift. Because everything changes, we are free to experience each moment without clinging. The blossom is beautiful because it will fall. The morning air is precious because it will warm by noon. If we tried to hold them forever, we would lose the joy they bring in the moment they are here. In my own life, I have seen this truth most clearly in the garden. Each spring, I plant flowers knowing they will wither. I do not mourn them before they bloom. I tend to them as if they will live forever, even as I know they will not. This is the art, to care deeply without needing to keep. You might wonder, does letting go mean giving up? No. Letting go is not the same as abandoning. It is not a rejection of love, effort, or memory. It is the act of opening your hand so that what is meant to leave can leave, and what is meant to stay can stay. Think of water held in your palm. If you clench your fist, it spills through your fingers. If you hold your hand open, it rests there for a while before flowing away naturally. Life is like that water. The more we grip, the faster it slips away. Sometimes letting go is gentle. Other times, it feels like tearing a root from the earth. But in both, there is space afterward. Space you did not know was missing until it arrived. That space is where peace begins to grow. Let's try something together. Close your eyes if you wish. Think of something you have been carrying: an old hurt, a tight expectation, a dream that is no longer alive. See it clearly, as if you are holding it in your hands. Feel its weight. Now imagine placing it on the ground beside you. You can pick it up later if you choose, but for now, it rests there, outside of you. Notice how your body feels without it. Notice the way your breath moves more freely. This practice can be repeated anytime: in the middle of the night when thoughts circle, in the middle of the day when the past intrudes, in the middle of a conversation when the old patterns return. You simply set it down, even for a moment. The masters say, when the hands are empty, the heart is full. By letting go, we make space for what is here now, for the laughter that surprises us, for the kindness we did not expect, for the quiet joy of an afternoon with nothing to prove. In the next part, we will learn how to extend this spaciousness to our emotions themselves, meeting them without judgment, allowing them to move through us like the seasons. Because once you can let go of what no longer serves you, you can welcome what comes with a lighter heart. But for now, remember, letting go is not losing. It is choosing to walk without the stones in your pocket. Part 7. When emotions come like storms. Even after we have loosened our grip, life will still send us storms. They roll in without warning: a sudden anger at something small, a sadness that feels older than we are, a wave of worry that swells in the chest and makes it hard to breathe. In those moments, the mind often reacts in one of two ways. It either tries to fight the storm, pushing it away with force, or it clings to it, letting the feeling consume every corner of thought. Both approaches leave us exhausted. Zen offers a third way, the way of the witness. We do not fight the storm, and we do not become it. We stand beneath the shelter of awareness, watching the clouds form, feeling the rain fall, knowing it will pass in its own time. I once heard a story from an old temple in the mountains. A young monk came to his teacher, tears streaming down his face. "Master," he said, "my mind is full of sadness. I cannot meditate. I cannot find peace." The master took him outside. The day was overcast, the sky heavy with rain. They stood together under the shelter of the temple roof. "Look at the valley," the master said.
Do you see how the rain falls? The monk nodded. Does the rain hate the valley? No, said the monk. And does the valley fight the rain? No. The master smiled. Then why do you fight your sadness? Let it fall. Let it soak the soil. The valley knows the rain will not last forever. This is the art of meeting emotions without judgment. Anger, sadness, fear, joy, they are all weather patterns moving through the sky of your mind. You are not the storm. You are the sky. It sounds simple, but it is not easy. When a strong emotion arises, the body reacts instantly. The heart beats faster, the muscles tighten, the breath shortens. If we are not aware, we get pulled into the current before we even realize it. That is why the practices from earlier parts, breathing, awareness, letting go, are so important. They give us an anchor in the middle of the storm. Let's practice together. Think of the last time you felt a strong emotion. It might have been today or weeks ago. Notice what happened in your body. Did your chest tighten? Did your stomach clench? Did your jaw lock? Now imagine that you could watch this sensation as if it were a cloud moving across the sky. You do not need to name it good or bad. You only need to see it, to feel it, to let it exist without pushing or pulling. The Zen masters called this non-judgment. It is not indifference. It is a deep, compassionate acceptance that says, I see you. You may stay until you are ready to leave. I remember visiting a friend who had recently lost someone dear to him. People kept telling him to stay strong, to keep busy, to move on. But when I arrived, I found him sitting quietly in his garden, tears on his cheeks. I am letting the grief be here, he said softly. I am not trying to make it smaller, and I am not letting it grow larger. I am just letting it rain. In the weeks that followed, I saw how this allowed his grief to change shape naturally. It did not vanish, but it softened, making room for moments of laughter, for the smell of flowers in the garden, for the warmth of the sun on his face. When we stop judging our emotions, they lose their sharp edges. Anger becomes energy we can use to set boundaries. Sadness becomes a well of compassion. Fear becomes awareness. Even joy, when held lightly, becomes less about clinging and more about gratitude. Here is a simple way to practice when the storm comes. Name it gently. This is anger. This is sadness. This is fear. Naming it creates space between you and the feeling. Locate it in the body. Notice where it lives: chest, stomach, throat, head. Breathe into that place. Imagine sending warmth and space into it with each inhale. Allow it to be. No need to fix it or chase it away. Over time, this changes how the storms move through you. Instead of knocking you down, they pass over like rain that nourishes the earth. Nature reminds us of this constantly. After the heaviest rains, the forest is greener. After the strongest winds, the air is clearer. Your emotional storms, too, can leave behind clarity and growth if you allow them to come and go without resistance. In Zen poetry, there is an image often repeated. A mountain stands unmoved, even as clouds gather and scatter around its peak. This is what you are learning, to be the mountain, not the cloud. As you listen now, take a slow, deep breath. Feel it move through you like the first calm after a storm. Remember, no emotion is permanent. It will change. You will change. And each time you meet a storm with stillness, you grow more anchored in yourself. In the next part, we will see how this inner anchoring allows you to find peace even in the middle of chaos,
when the world around you is loud, fast, and demanding. Because the storms outside are as inevitable as the storms within, but your relationship to them can transform entirely. For now, carry this truth with you. The storm is not you. You are the sky. Part 8. Finding Peace in the Middle of Chaos. There is a kind of quiet that comes when the world around you is already silent. The hush of dawn, the stillness after snow. But there is another kind of quiet, one that does not depend on the world at all. It is the quiet you carry inside, even when the streets are loud, when voices press in, when every minute seems to demand a piece of you. This is the quiet Zen teaches us to cultivate, a peace that lives in the middle of chaos. I once heard a story about a tea master who lived in a bustling town. The market was just outside his door, and every day the air was filled with the cries of merchants, the clatter of carts, the shuffle of hundreds of feet. Yet those who visited the tea master's small shop said it felt like stepping into another world. The moment they crossed the threshold, the noise seemed to fade, and a deep calm would settle in their chest. One afternoon, a young visitor asked, "How do you keep this place so peaceful when the market is so loud?" The tea master smiled. "The market is loud," he said, "but I am not." That is the heart of it. Chaos will always exist, in the streets, in the workplace, even in the home. But peace is not the absence of noise. It is the ability to remain undisturbed by it. If you've ever sat by a river during a storm, you may have noticed something. Even as the surface churns with wind and rain, the water deep below remains still. That stillness is not destroyed by the surface turmoil. It is simply untouched by it. You too have that depth. Zen practice is about learning to live from it. The modern world makes this challenging. Phones ring, notifications blink, the pace of everything pushes you to match it. Even moments meant for rest are often filled with distraction. The result is that we begin to mistake stimulation for life itself, as though constant motion is the same as living fully. But the truth is, constant motion is exhausting. And the more we try to match the world's speed, the more we lose touch with the slow, steady rhythm that keeps us whole. The path to peace in chaos begins with presence. When you are present, you are no longer chasing the next moment or fighting the last one. You are here. And here, even in noise, there can be quiet. Let's try something now. Imagine you are standing in the middle of a busy street, not in danger, but surrounded by motion. Cars pass, people talk, music plays from an open window. Feel the sounds moving around you like wind through tall grass. Notice how they enter your awareness and leave again, without needing to pull you from where you stand. This is the practice, to let the noise pass through without letting it take root. I once spoke to a woman who worked in an emergency room. She told me that in her first year, she felt constantly on edge, the alarms, the voices, the urgency of life or death decisions. But over time, she learned something vital. She could not stop the noise, but she could stop adding her own noise to it. She could breathe slowly, keep her movement steady, let her mind be the calmest thing in the room. "It's like being a rock in the middle of a river," she said. "The water rushes around me, but I stay where I am." This is what Zen calls equanimity. It is not indifference. It is not detachment in the cold sense. It is the strength to remain centered no matter how the world moves. There are ways to cultivate this strength in daily life. Anchor to the body. In moments of overwhelm, notice your feet on the ground, your hands resting on your lap, your breath moving in and out. This brings you out of the storm in your head and into the stability of the present moment. Choose one point of focus. In a crowded, noisy place, pick one thing, a sound, an object, your breath, and rest your attention there. This trains your mind to stay steady. Practice small silences. Even in chaos, pause for 3 breaths before speaking or acting. This creates space between stimulus and response, where wisdom can enter. With practice, you may find that you no longer need the world to be quiet for you to feel peaceful. You can walk through a busy airport, sit in a crowded cafe, or navigate a heated conversation and still feel the soft hum of calm within you. Zen has a saying, "No matter how loud the world, the bell inside you can still ring clear." This bell is your awareness, your center, your inner temple. No one can take it from you, but you can forget it's there. These practices help you remember. And here's something worth knowing. When you carry peace into chaos, it affects the world around you. People feel it, even if they can't name it. The tea master's shop was not quiet because the market outside hushed itself. It was quiet because his own stillness filled the space, and others responded to it. So the next time you find yourself surrounded by noise, the clamor of voices, the endless tasks, the world moving too fast, pause, breathe, feel the ground beneath you, and remind yourself, the market is loud, but I am not. In the next part, we will explore a gift of this steady presence, the ability to slow time itself. Not in the literal sense, but in the way moments begin to feel longer, richer, and more alive when you are fully within them. For now, carry this image with you. You standing in the middle of the river, the water rushing past, your feet planted firmly on the stones below. The current moves, but you remain. Part 9. Slowing Time. There are moments in life when time seems to stretch, the way it does in childhood, when a summer afternoon feels endless, or in those rare, perfect pauses when you notice the scent of rain in the air and the world feels suspended. As we grow older, those moments seem to come less often. Days blur together. Weeks pass without our noticing. We look up and realize that months have slipped through our fingers like water. It is not that time moves faster. It is that we have stopped being present for it. Zen teaches that we cannot stop the passage of time, but we can change our experience of it. And in doing so, we can make life feel spacious again. When you are fully present, even a single minute can feel full and unhurried. When you are distracted, whole hours can vanish without leaving a trace. There is a story of a wandering monk who stopped to rest in a village. An old farmer invited him to share a simple meal. They sat together, eating in silence, the monk savoring each bite as if it were the first and last he would ever take. When the meal was done, the farmer said, "You eat so slowly. I have seen people finish a bowl of rice in 3 minutes, but you take 15. The monk smiled. "I take 15 minutes, but I have truly eaten. The others take 3 minutes, but they are still hungry." The secret to slowing time is not in the clock. It is in the depth of your attention. You have already touched this in small ways, in the stillness of the breath, in the mindfulness of sweeping a floor or washing a dish. But here we take it further. We begin to treat time itself as an object of meditation. Imagine walking through a garden in early morning. You feel the weight of each step, the coolness of the dew beneath your feet. You notice the way the light moves through the leaves, the slow turning of a flower toward the sun. For these moments, there is no rush, no next thing, only this unfolding. The minutes expand, not because they are longer, but because you are fully inside them. There is a practice for this, walking meditation. You choose a path, long or short, and walk at a pace just slower than your usual. With each step, you breathe in as one foot lifts, breathe out as it settles. Your attention rests entirely on the movement, the heel touching the ground, the shift of balance, the other foot rising. It is not about getting anywhere. It is about being here, step after step. At first, you might feel restless. The mind will want to move faster. But with practice, something changes. The world sharpens. You notice the texture of the path, the faint sounds around you, the way your body sways slightly with each stride. In this way, time opens. And here is the paradox. When you slow down, you often get more from your life, not less. The hurried mind skips over details. The slowed mind drinks them in. I remember speaking to a man who had retired after decades of rushing through his days. He told me, "I used to eat breakfast standing up, answering emails. I barely tasted it. Now I sit by the window, and I can tell you the color of the sky, the smell of the toast, the way the light touches my coffee. I think I've lived more in the past year than in the 10 before it." Slowing time does not mean doing everything at half speed. It means giving yourself fully to the moments that matter, which, when you truly look, is most of them. Here is a way to begin. Choose one daily activity to slow down: eating, walking, bathing, even brushing your teeth. Remove distractions during this activity. No phone, no multitasking. Pay attention to the smallest details: the sound, the texture, the scent, the rhythm. As you do this, notice how your sense of time shifts. Notice how a few minutes can begin to feel like a small eternity, not in boredom, but in fullness. There is an old Zen image, a drop of dew hanging from a blade of grass at dawn. The drop reflects the whole sky, the rising sun, the shape of the earth. In the same way, a single present moment can reflect the depth of an entire life. And here is the quiet gift of this practice. When you slow down enough, the urgency of the world loosens its grip. You begin to see that most of what feels urgent is not. You have space to respond instead of react. This is how slowing time becomes not just a way of living, but a way of healing. It teaches you that you are not running out of life. You are simply invited to step into it more deeply. In the next part, we will explore what happens in that space, the pause between stimulus and response, and how it can change the way you meet every challenge. But for now, remember, you cannot hold time, but you can enter it. And when you do, it will hold you. Part 10. The space between reactions. There is a moment, so small that it can pass unnoticed, between something happening and the way you respond to it. It is the space between the words you hear and the words you speak, the space between the thing that startles you and the way you choose to move, the space between the emotion rising and the action you take. Most of us live as if this space doesn't exist. We hear, we react. We feel, we react. The chain is so fast, so automatic, that we assume it cannot be broken. But Zen teaches that this space is not only real, it is the key to freedom. I once heard a teaching from a monk who had lived decades in a monastery. The difference between a peaceful mind and a restless one, he said, is not what happens to it, but what it does in the pause before it moves. Imagine someone says something unkind to you. Your first impulse may be to defend, to snap back, to meet sharpness with sharpness. But if you can enter the space between, even for a breath, you open the possibility of responding differently. The pause becomes a doorway. Step through, and you can choose a response that reflects your deeper self, not your momentary heat. This is not about being slow for the sake of slowness. It is about reclaiming your ability to choose. In the rush of modern life, we often feel pushed, pulled, and provoked into reactions we later regret. But the truth is, no one can make us act. They can only present the stimulus. What happens next belongs to us. There's a story about a tea master and a young samurai. The samurai, proud and quick-tempered, came to challenge the master. "I hear you are skilled," he said. "Let us fight." The tea master agreed, but asked for 1 cup of tea first. He brewed it with slow, careful movements, pouring water, whisking matcha, placing the cup before the samurai. The samurai, watching, felt his own breath slow. By the time the tea was finished, his anger had dissolved. "I no longer wish to fight," he said. "That," the tea master replied, "is the power of the space between." When you pause, you change the rhythm. You stop letting the world set your tempo. You allow the body to relax, the breath to steady, the mind to see clearly. And in that clarity, the right action, or no action at all, often becomes obvious. Here's how you can begin to find this space in daily life. Notice the trigger. It might be a tone of voice, a sudden noise, a rush of frustration. The moment you feel the spark, name it silently. Here is the spark. Breathe once before moving. 1 slow inhale, 1 slow exhale. Ask yourself, what matters here? This question shifts you from instinct to intention. Then act, or choose not to. It may sound simple, but it is not easy at first. The old habits will rush in, urging you to react instantly. But even a pause of 1 breath is enough to begin changing the pattern. Think of a musician between notes. The silence is not empty. It holds the meaning of what came before and what will come after. In the same way, the space between your reactions holds the possibility of turning a conflict into understanding, a mistake into learning, a moment of tension into a moment of grace. This space is also where compassion lives. If someone's words sting, pausing gives you time to remember that they too may be speaking from their own storms. If a situation frustrates you, pausing lets you see whether the frustration is about now or about something older. In this way, the pause softens not just your actions, but your heart. I once met a woman who worked as a mediator for families in conflict. She told me her most important tool was not clever arguments or persuasive words. It was the pause. When voices rose, she would place her hands on the table and breathe silently until the room followed her rhythm. In the pause, she said, people remember they are human again. You can use this anywhere, in a meeting, in traffic, during a disagreement at home. No one needs to know you are doing it. To the world, it will look like a moment of stillness. But inside, you will know that you are standing in the doorway between reaction and response, deciding which path to take. And here's something beautiful. The more you practice, the larger that space becomes. What begins as a breath can become 2, then 3, until you find that you have all the time you need to meet life with wisdom. In Zen, there is an image of a bell. Strike it, and the sound will come. But if the bell is filled with sand, the sound is dull and short-lived. The pause is like clearing the sand, so that when life strikes you, the tone that rings out is clear, steady, and true to your nature. In the next part, we will explore how this pause, this calm center, changes the way we connect with others, turning ordinary conversations into opportunities for deep listening and understanding. But for now, hold this truth. You are not your first impulse. You are the space that holds it. Part 11. Zen in Relationships. The space you create inside yourself does not end with you. It touches the people around you, your family, your friends, your colleagues, even strangers you pass on the street. When we carry tension, it leaks into our words, our tone, our smallest gestures. And when we carry peace, it does the same. Others can feel it, not always consciously, but in the way they breathe easier around you, in the way conversations with you feel less like battles and more like open doors. Zen teaches that every interaction is an opportunity to practice presence. It is not about performing kindness or following a script of polite words. It is about bringing your whole attention to the person before you, as if they are the only person in the world. There is a story of a monk known for his listening. Villagers would come to him with their troubles, and when they spoke, it was as though the rest of the world had vanished. He would look into their eyes without rushing to answer, without thinking of what he would say next. Sometimes he would speak very little at all, but people left feeling lighter, as if they had been truly seen. When someone asked him his secret, the monk replied, "When you speak, I am nowhere else." This is the heart of Zen in relationships, being nowhere else. In our modern lives, distraction has become normal. We speak to each other while our eyes scan screens. We half listen, waiting for our turn to speak. We measure conversations by how quickly we can return to our own concerns. But when you strip away the noise and simply offer your full attention, something almost magical happens. Trust begins to grow. It is not just in listening, but in the way you speak. Zen speech is deliberate, like a stone placed gently in water, creating ripples instead of splashes. Before you speak, you can ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If the answer to all three is yes, your words will carry a certain weight, not heaviness, but a steady presence that others feel. I once knew a woman who worked in a busy office. She was not the loudest or the most outspoken, but when she spoke, the room would quiet. People leaned in to hear her. She told me her secret was not confidence, but consideration. "I never want to speak from heat," she said, "only from clarity." Zen also teaches us to meet others as they are, without trying to mold them into who we think they should be. This does not mean accepting harm or injustice. It means understanding that every person is walking their own path, shaped by their own joys and wounds. When you meet them with this awareness, you soften the urge to control, and instead, you can respond from compassion. Relationships become lighter when we stop trying to win and start trying to understand. Here is a practice you can try. The next time you are with someone, a friend, a partner, even a stranger, imagine that they are a guest in your home, and your only task is to make them feel welcome. Put aside your phone, your mental list, your urge to correct or advise. Let your body relax, your breath slow. Listen with the same presence you would give to the sound of a bell fading in the air. Over time, this practice changes the very atmosphere of your relationships. Arguments lose their sharpness. Moments of joy feel fuller. Even difficult conversations become more honest and less destructive. Zen in relationships is not about perfection. You will still get impatient, still be misunderstood, still say things you wish you had phrased differently. But the more you practice, the more you return to that inner space before reacting, the more you respond from your deeper self rather than from habit. There is an old Zen image of bamboo in the wind. The bamboo does not resist the breeze, nor does it cling to stillness. It bends when the wind blows, then returns to upright when the air is calm. In your relationships, you can be like this bamboo, flexible enough to meet others where they are, steady enough to return to your own center when the moment has passed. And perhaps the most profound gift Zen can bring to your connections is this: the realization that love, at its core, is presence. Not the grand declarations, not the constant doing, but the quiet act of showing up fully, again and again. In the next part, we will explore how this presence deepens when we say less, when we discover the quiet power of choosing our words carefully, or sometimes choosing not to speak at all. But for now, remember, to truly meet another, you must first be fully here yourself. Part 12, The Power of Saying Less. Silence is not the absence of communication. In Zen, silence is a language of its own, as eloquent as any sentence, as full as any speech. We live in a world that rewards volume. The more you say, the more you seem to matter. The faster you respond, the more competent you appear. In conversation, we often rush to fill the gaps, fearing that silence means awkwardness, disinterest, or weakness. But the Zen masters knew that in those gaps, in the pauses between words, understanding has room to take root. There is a story of a young monk who came to his teacher full of questions. He spoke quickly, barely pausing for breath, trying to impress with his knowledge. The teacher listened quietly, then poured tea into the monk's cup until it overflowed. The tea spilled onto the table, but the teacher kept pouring. "Why are you doing that?" the monk exclaimed. "You are like this cup," the teacher said, "so full of words and ideas that nothing new can enter. Empty yourself, and you may begin to learn." Saying less is not about withholding or being mysterious for the sake of it. It is about speaking from a place of clarity, where words are chosen carefully, not thrown like pebbles into a rushing stream. When you speak less, each word carries more weight. It is like striking a bell only once. The sound lingers, filling the air, instead of being lost in a clamor of repeated strikes. I once knew a man who was loved in his community for his wisdom. People sought him out for advice, but often left with only a few sentences. "Why don't you talk more?" someone asked him. He smiled. "Because I want my words to have room to breathe." This is something you can bring into your own life. The next time someone speaks to you, resist the urge to answer immediately. Let their words rest in the air for a moment. Let them ripple through you. See what truth or emotion they carry. Then respond, not with everything you could say, but with what most needs to be said. Zen speech often follows three simple qualities. Is it true? Speak only what you believe to be real and honest. Is it necessary? Speak only what adds value to the moment. Is it kind? Speak in a way that does not harm unnecessarily. If all three are present, the words will land gently but firmly, like a pebble dropped into still water, sending ripples far beyond the point of contact. This restraint is not only for the sake of others, it also serves you. When you slow your speech, you slow your mind. You notice the impulse to interrupt, to dominate, to win, and you can choose instead to listen, to allow. The result is that your relationships feel less like competitions and more like shared spaces. There is another dimension to saying less, knowing when to say nothing at all. Sometimes the most loving thing you can offer is your presence without commentary. When someone is grieving, advice can feel like a wall between you. But silent companionship, sitting together, perhaps with a hand resting gently over theirs, can say, "I am here," more powerfully than any sentence. I have seen this at a temple during a funeral. The head monk offered no speeches, no consolations. He simply stood beside the family, bowing deeply at the altar, then remained at the edge of the room. His silence held the grief like a vessel, allowing it to be shared without words. In daily life, you can practice this by letting moments of quiet exist in conversation. If someone pauses, don't rush to fill the gap. Let it be. Sometimes they will speak again, sometimes not. Either way, the silence has its own work to do. In Zen calligraphy, there is as much meaning in the empty space as in the brushstrokes. The white paper around the ink shapes the art as much as the ink itself. In the same way, silence shapes the meaning of our words. You might notice that when you begin to say less, others listen more. They lean in, they remember what you said, because it was not lost among hundreds of unnecessary syllables. You also begin to hear more, not just the words others speak, but the subtle changes in tone, the pauses, the emotions beneath the surface. And this practice, like all Zen practice, is not about perfection. There will be times you speak too quickly, times you wish you had held back. But each time you remember to pause, to choose, to let words ripen before they are spoken, you strengthen the muscle of mindful speech. In the next part, we will explore how to create not just verbal space, but physical and mental space. A sanctuary for yourself that you can carry anywhere, where silence and peace can grow even in the busiest of days. But for now, remember, speech is like fire. Used with care, it gives warmth and light. Used without thought, it can burn what you meant to protect. Part 13. Creating your Zen space. There is a place within you that no one else can enter without your invitation. A place untouched by noise, untouched by hurry, untouched even by time. You might not visit it often, perhaps you've forgotten it exists, but it is always there, waiting like a quiet garden behind the walls of a busy city. In Zen, we call this the inner temple. It is not made of stone or wood, it is not found on a mountaintop. It is carried with you, as close as your breath, as steady as your heartbeat. Still, finding your way back to it can feel difficult in the midst of life's demands. That is why the old masters often created outer spaces that reflected their inner stillness. A room, a corner, a garden. Places designed not for show, but for returning to themselves. These spaces were simple, uncluttered, arranged in a way that encouraged the mind to settle and the body to soften. You can create such a space for yourself, a physical reminder of the stillness that already lives inside you. It doesn't need to be large. It doesn't need to be separate from the rest of your home. It only needs to be a place where, the moment you enter, your body knows, here I can rest. I once visited an elderly woman in Kyoto who had lived alone for many years. Her home was modest, just 2 rooms, but in one corner she had placed a low cushion, a small table with a single vase, and a window that opened toward a maple tree. Every morning she would sit there with her tea, watching the light change on the leaves. "This is my temple," she said, smiling. "Even when the world is loud, this space stays quiet." Your Zen space can be a meditation corner, a seat by a window, a chair in the garden, or even just a single candle on a small table. The point is not the decoration, it is the intention. When you step into this space, you are stepping out of the constant current of doing and into the deep pool of being. Here are a few ways to create your own. Keep it simple. Remove unnecessary items. Let each object have meaning. A cushion, a plant, a candle, a stone from a place you love. Let light be part of the design. If possible, choose a spot where natural light can enter. If not, use a soft, warm lamp or candlelight to invite the eyes to relax. Include something living. A plant, a flower, or even a small bowl of water can remind you of life's quiet flow. Make it personal. This is your sanctuary. If a photograph, a book, or a piece of fabric brings you peace, let it belong here. But the most important part of your Zen space is not what it looks like, it's what you do there. When you sit in this space, you are not planning, not scrolling, not consuming more noise. You are simply allowing yourself to arrive. You might close your eyes and breathe. You might listen to the sounds outside without naming them. You might sip tea slowly, feeling its warmth fill you from the inside out. Over time, something interesting happens. The more you visit this space, the more it comes with you when you leave. Just as the scent of incense lingers on clothing, the calm of your Zen space lingers in your movements, your tone of voice, your presence. You might find yourself in a meeting, in a grocery store, or in a crowded train, and suddenly you remember your space. You feel it inside you, and for a moment you are home again. Because this is the real truth. The Zen space you create outside is only a reflection of the one you are building within. You are learning to keep a quiet corner in your heart that is untouched by what happens around you. This inner space is not about escape. It is about remembering. Remembering that you are more than the tasks, the roles, the noise. Remembering that you are allowed to be still. I recall the words of a monk I once met in the mountains. His temple had been destroyed in a storm years earlier, but he had never rebuilt it. The walls are gone, he said, but the temple is here, and he placed his hand over his chest. As you listen now, perhaps you can close your eyes and imagine your own inner temple. What does it look like?
What colors are there? What sounds? Is there a breeze? A scent? It might be modeled after a real place, or it might be entirely imagined. It doesn't matter. What matters is that it feels like yours, a space that welcomes you without judgment, where you are free to set everything down. You might visit this inner space before sleep to quiet your mind. You might go there in the middle of the day when the pressure builds. You might simply rest there for a breath, before you speak, before you act, before you step into the next moment. In the next part, we will explore how to extend this sense of sanctuary into your own body, treating it as a temple, not just a tool for getting through the day. But for now, take one deep, slow breath. Picture your Zen space, outer or inner, and let it remind you. Peace is not somewhere you go, it is somewhere you return to. Part 14. The Body as a Temple. The outer temple is built of stone and wood. The inner temple is built of stillness and attention. But there is another temple, one you have lived in every day of your life, the body. In Zen, the body is not merely a vessel for the mind, not just a machine to carry out tasks. It is the home through which you experience the world, the place where the wind brushes against your skin, where the scent of tea drifts upward, where the sound of rain becomes a vibration you can feel in your bones. And yet, how often do we treat this temple as sacred? More often, we treat it as a servant, pushing it, ignoring its quiet signals, feeding it on whatever is fastest, depriving it of rest when it begs for sleep. In time, the body begins to speak louder, aches, tension, illness. But even then, many of us respond not with care, but with frustration, as though our own home has betrayed us. Zen teaches that caring for the body is not vanity or indulgence. It is an act of reverence. If your body is the temple, then each gesture of care, a slow breath, a nourishing meal, a walk under the open sky, is an offering laid upon its altar. I remember watching an elderly monk perform the morning bowing ritual. Each movement was deliberate, graceful, unhurried. Afterward, I asked if it was part of his meditation practice. He smiled. "This is how I thank the body for carrying me here today." Gratitude changes the way you inhabit yourself. When you begin to treat the body as something precious, you stop rushing it. You listen to its messages before they become shouts. You move in ways that strengthen rather than strain. You feed it with awareness, not habit. Here is a simple practice to honor the body. The next time you wake in the morning, before reaching for your phone or stepping into the day's demands, place a hand on your heart and one on your belly. Feel the gentle rhythm of your breath. Say silently, "Thank you." Not for being perfect, not for looking a certain way, but for carrying you into another day of life. Zen also invites us to move with mindfulness.
This does not mean formal exercise alone. It means moving as though every action were a small ceremony. When you stand, notice how your weight shifts from one foot to the other. When you walk, feel the heel touch the ground, the arch roll forward, the toes release. When you stretch, notice the lengthening of muscle, the opening of space within the joints. Each movement becomes a bow, not to an altar, but to the life within you. Breath is part of this temple care. When the breath is shallow, the body tenses. When the breath is deep and steady, the body relaxes, the mind clears. You can practice hara breathing, placing your awareness in the soft area just below the navel, letting each inhale expand this center, and each exhale release tension downward. This centers both body and mind, grounding you in stability. The body as a temple also means knowing when to rest. In our culture, rest is often seen as laziness, as if worth is measured only by constant motion. But in Zen, rest is essential. It is the still point where renewal happens, where strength is rebuilt. Think of a bow. If the string is pulled too tight for too long, it will snap. But if it is given moments to relax, it will be ready again when needed. And there is a deeper layer to this. The way you treat your body shapes the way you treat the rest of the world. If you move roughly within your own skin, you will likely move roughly through life. If you move gently, with care, you will bring that gentleness to others, to the earth beneath your feet, to the smallest living things. I recall the words of another teacher who said, "When you enter a temple, you bow. When you wake in the morning, bow to your body." This is not a command to perform an actual bow, though you may choose to. It is a reminder that the first act of the day can be one of respect for the home you live in from birth to death. You do not need perfect health to treat your body as a temple. You do not need to be free from pain or illness. Zen care is not about creating an ideal body. It is about creating a harmonious relationship with the body you have, here and now. Let's try this together now. Close your eyes and scan your body slowly from the crown of your head down to your toes. Notice any places of tension or ease, warmth or coolness, heaviness or lightness. Do not try to change anything. Simply notice, as if you were walking through a sacred hall, taking in its details with reverence. This awareness alone is a form of care, because the temple of the body, like any sacred place, responds to attention. The more you tend to it, the more it can serve as a home for your spirit, steady, balanced, ready to meet each day with presence. In the next part, we will explore how to extend this care into the rhythms of your life, beginning with the first hours of the day, crafting a morning practice that lays a foundation of peace before the noise begins. But for now, remember, you live in a temple you did not have to build. Treat it with the same reverence you would a place where the divine resides. Part 15. Morning Zen. The way you begin the day shapes the way the day will carry you. Just as a river's course is influenced by the first bend it takes, your thoughts, energy, and mood are influenced by the first moments after you wake. Most mornings in our modern world begin abruptly, with alarms that startle the body, with phones that flood the mind with messages, news, and demands before your feet even touch the floor. We rise already pulled into the current, barely aware of ourselves before we are swept downstream. Zen invites us to begin differently, not by adding hours to your morning, but by entering it with intention, with the same reverence you would bring to a temple at dawn. In monasteries, mornings begin in silence. The first light filters into the room, soft and patient. Monks rise without rushing. They bow to the space around them, to their own bodies, to the day that has arrived. The air is cool, fresh, carrying the faint scent of earth. The mind is still unshaped by the world, like an untouched canvas. You can bring this quality to your own mornings no matter where you live. The first step is to claim a few minutes before the noise begins. When you wake, resist the urge to reach for your phone. Instead, sit up slowly. Feel the weight of your body in the bed. Let your breath deepen naturally. If you can, open a window, even for a moment, and let fresh air brush against your face. This is not just waking up the body, it is waking up the senses. A morning Zen practice can be simple. Here is one you can try. Bow to the day. This can be a literal bow or a silent acknowledgement, a moment to greet the morning as something alive, something you are meeting for the first time. Drink with awareness. Whether it's tea, coffee, or water, hold the cup in both hands. Feel its warmth or coolness. Smell it before you taste it. Let the first sip be slow enough that you truly notice it. Move gently. This might be stretching, walking a few steps, or simply rolling your shoulders. Move as if you are testing the edges of a body you are grateful to inhabit. Set one intention, not a long list of tasks, but one way you want to be today. I will move without rushing, or I will speak with patience, or simply, I will breathe. Even 10 minutes like this can shift the tone of your day. It is not about being perfect. It is about beginning with presence rather than urgency. I once spoke with a man who worked long hours and often woke already thinking about deadlines. His mornings felt like a race. When he began to set aside 10 minutes for stillness, sitting by a window with tea, listening to the sounds outside, he found that his days felt less frantic. The work was the same, but his approach had changed. It's like I'm carrying a calm center into everything, he said. In Zen, mornings are not just a time to prepare for the day ahead. They are a time to reconnect with the fact that you are alive. Before the tasks, before the roles you play, there is the simple reality of breath moving in and out, of light shifting slowly across the floor, of your heart beating quietly in your chest. Sometimes, your morning practice may need to be even simpler. If you are traveling or if life feels especially heavy, your morning Zen might be nothing more than taking 3 deep breaths before rising. That alone can remind you that you have a choice in how you meet the day. What you avoid in the morning matters too. If possible, give yourself a buffer before letting in the digital noise. The mind in those first minutes is soft, open, like new snow. Whatever enters will leave its imprint. If you fill it immediately with news, messages, or arguments, the snow becomes churned before you have even taken a step. Instead, let the first impressions of the day come from the world itself. The color of the sky, the sound of a bird, the quiet hum of your own home. These impressions anchor you in the present before the outside world begins to pull. There is a story from the Zen tradition about a master who greeted each morning by facing east and bowing 3 times, regardless of the weather. When a student asked why, the master said, "I bow to thank the sun for rising, and to remind myself that I have risen too." Your own bow might not be literal. It could be making the bed slowly, lighting a candle, or simply standing at the window and watching the light change. What matters is that it is done with full attention as a gesture of respect for the day. Over time, a morning Zen practice becomes more than a routine. It becomes a way of setting your inner compass. When challenges come, you will have already begun the day from a place of groundedness. When moments of joy appear, you will be more ready to notice them. In the next part, we will explore the other side of this, how to close the day with the same care, creating an evening practice that allows you to let go, Release the day's weight and prepare for deep, nourishing rest. But for now, remember, the morning is not just the start of another day. It is the opening of a door you get to step through, and how you step matters. Part 16. Evening Zen. The day, no matter how it began, always ends. Whether it was full of ease or scattered with challenges, whether it flowed like a clear stream or felt heavy like a stone in your pocket, it comes to this: the slow dimming of the light, the quiet approach of night. Evenings carry a different kind of stillness than mornings. In the morning, stillness is like a fresh canvas, blank, full of possibility. In the evening, stillness is like a book being closed, the story of the day complete, whether you loved every page or struggled through its chapters. In Zen, how we end the day matters as much as how we begin it. If the morning sets the tone, the evening sets the rest. It prepares the mind for sleep and the heart for release, so that we do not carry the unfinished weight of today into tomorrow. Monks often mark the end of the day with the ringing of a bell. The sound begins clear and bright, then fades into a long, gentle silence. That fading is a reminder. All things pass, and in their passing, they leave space for something new. You can create your own evening ritual, a way of telling your body and mind, the work is done, the day is complete. It doesn't have to be long or elaborate. What matters is the intention: to soften, to let go, to prepare for rest. Here is one simple sequence you might try. Dim the light. Light affects the mind more than we realize. When you lower the lights in your space, the body receives the signal that it is time to unwind. Release the day physically. This can be as simple as stretching gently, rolling your shoulders, or lying down and letting each muscle soften in turn. Breathe away the weight. With each exhale, imagine setting down the events of the day, the things left undone, the conversations that linger, the thoughts that circle. Offer gratitude. Even if the day was difficult, find at least one thing, however small, to thank it for. I once knew a woman who ended every evening by lighting a single candle. She would sit quietly, watching its flame, and silently name 3 things she was grateful for. Then she would blow out the candle, as if sealing her gratitude in the air before the day faded completely. "It helps me sleep without my mind chasing the day," she told me. Evening Zen is not about pretending the day was perfect. It is about acknowledging what was without clinging to it. If there was joy, you let it settle into your heart. If there was struggle, you bow to it and let it go. Either way, you choose not to carry it into the night like a heavy bundle. There is a Zen story about 2 monks traveling together. One day, they came to a river where a woman stood unable to cross. The elder monk carried her across on his back. Hours later, as they walked, the younger monk burst out, "Why did you carry her? We are not supposed to touch women." The elder monk replied, "I set her down at the river. Why are you still carrying her?" Evening Zen is about setting the day down at the river. When you lie in bed, ask yourself, "What am I still carrying?" And then gently set it down. You might find it helpful to create a small sensory anchor for your evening ritual, a scent, a sound, or a texture that tells the body, "Now we rest." This could be a cup of chamomile tea, the sound of rain played softly, the feel of a certain blanket. Over time, the body will associate these with peace, and relaxation will come more easily. In Zen temples, evenings are often accompanied by chanting. The repetition of sound draws the mind into rhythm, slowing its restless movements. In your own home, this could be replaced by soft humming, reciting a favorite poem, or simply breathing in sync with the sound of your own heartbeat. As you prepare for sleep, Remember that rest is not an interruption of life. It is part of its rhythm. Just as the earth turns from day to night, just as tides rise and fall, you too are meant to have cycles of activity and quiet. Resisting rest is like trying to hold back the tide. Surrendering to it is an act of harmony. Before closing your eyes, you might visualize the day as a handful of sand. See yourself opening your hand, letting the grains fall away into the dark. You do not need them. The night will hold them for you. In the next part, we will explore the deeper truth behind these daily rhythms, that even in small habits, the essence of Zen is found, and that when we approach both beginnings and endings with care, the space between them, the living itself, becomes more peaceful. But for now, let your breath slow, let the light fade, and know that the day is done, and you have permission to rest. Part 17. The Gift of Imperfect Practice. If you spend enough time around Zen teachers, you will eventually hear the phrase, "Better to practice imperfectly than to wait for the perfect moment." Because perfection, in the way most of us imagine it, is a mirage. It keeps us waiting for the ideal conditions, the right mood, the right space, the right tools, before we allow ourselves to begin. And while we wait, life passes, quietly and without pause. Many people approach Zen practice with the same invisible barrier. They think they must meditate for exactly the right amount of time, in complete silence, with the perfect posture. They think they must be calm before they can begin breathing exercises. They think they must remove all distractions before they can truly be present. But Zen does not demand that you be perfect before you start. It invites you to start where you are, messy, distracted, tired, or uncertain, and to bring awareness to whatever arises. There is a story about a monk who was known for his clumsiness. He spilled tea, he dropped tools, he sometimes forgot the chants. One day, another monk teased him, saying, "You'll never reach enlightenment if you keep making mistakes." The clumsy monk replied, "Perhaps, but I will enjoy each step I take toward it." His answer was not carelessness, it was freedom. Freedom from the constant self-judgment that can drain joy from the simplest practices. Imperfect practice is not failure. It is honesty. It says, "This is where I am today, and I will meet myself here." Think about the breath work we've explored. Some days it will feel effortless, the breath deep and smooth, the mind clear. Other days it will feel tight, uneven, scattered. On those days, you might be tempted to stop early, to label the session as bad. But in Zen, the practice is not about the outcome, it is about the showing up. If you show up for your breath on the difficult days, you are practicing the same resilience you will need for difficult moments in life. The same is true for mindfulness in daily tasks. You may try to wash the dishes slowly with full presence, but find your mind racing ahead to tomorrow's worries. That's fine. The noticing itself is the practice. Every time you return to the moment, no matter how many times you drift away, you are strengthening the ability to return. Imperfect practice also teaches humility. When we demand perfection from ourselves, we tend to demand it from others too, often without realizing it. But when we accept our own stumbles, we create space for others to be human as well. Relationships soften, conversations become gentler, forgiveness comes more easily. I once spoke to a calligrapher who had been practicing for 50 years. He told me that he always began each day's work with one throwaway piece, a sheet of paper on which he allowed his strokes to be messy, uneven, unplanned. "This reminds me," he said, that beauty often comes from the line I did not control. Zen sees imperfection not as something to erase, but as something to embrace. In Japanese aesthetics, there is the concept of wabi-sabi, the beauty of things that are incomplete, irregular, and impermanent. A cracked teacup repaired with gold is more beautiful than one that never broke, because it carries the story of its life in plain sight. Your Zen practice is the same. It will carry the marks of your life, the mornings when you were tired, the evenings when your mind was restless, the moments when you forgot and then remembered again. These marks are not flaws. They are gold-filled seams. Here's a simple way to welcome imperfection into your practice. Begin anyway. Even if conditions aren't perfect, even if you're late, even if the space is noisy. Notice without judgment. If your mind wanders, acknowledge it and return. No shame, no scolding. Honor the attempt. At the end, thank yourself for showing up, regardless of how well it went. Over time, you will see that the power of your practice lies not in its polish, but in its persistence. Like water shaping stone, small, imperfect efforts repeated over time create transformation. And here is the hidden gift. When you stop chasing perfection, you begin to find joy in the smallest successes. One steady breath, one moment of stillness, one task done with full attention. These become victories, not because they are flawless, but because they are real. In the next part, we will explore another source of this joy, how connecting with nature's language can teach us the same patience, acceptance, and presence that imperfect practice reveals. But for now, remember, you do not need to be perfect to be present. You only need to be here as you are. Part 18, Zen and Nature's Language. Long before Zen was written down, it was lived in silence, in the sway of bamboo, in the rhythm of ocean tides, in the slow bloom of a lotus opening to the morning sun. Nature was the first temple, the first teacher. Its lessons required no scriptures, no translations. You learned by watching, by feeling, by becoming quiet enough to notice. When we speak of nature's language, we do not mean words. We mean the way the world speaks without sound, the shift of light across a field, the pause before rain, the way a river curves around a stone instead of fighting it. It is a language of patience, of cycles, of belonging. In the old Zen gardens, every rock, every plant, every ripple in the gravel was placed with care, not to control nature, but to honor it. The gardens were not meant to imitate perfection, but to reflect the truth of the seasons. Moss was allowed to grow. Leaves were allowed to fall. Even the smallest details reminded visitors that nothing is fixed and beauty is found in change. You can still learn this language, even if you live far from mountains and forests. You can watch how the morning light enters your room differently in summer and winter. You can notice how certain flowers turn toward the sun. You can feel the air shift before a storm, carrying a coolness that speaks of rain long before the first drop falls. The key is to listen without trying to translate. In Zen, we do not rush to make meaning of everything. We let things be what they are. The sound of wind in the trees is not a message to decode. It is the wind, and it is enough. There is a story of a monk who was asked by a student, "What is the essence of Zen?" The monk pointed to the bamboo swaying outside and said, "Listen." The student listened and said, "I hear the wind." The monk shook his head. "If you only hear the wind, you have missed it." The student returned the next day and listened again, but this time he stopped naming the sound. He stopped thinking of it as wind or bamboo or leaves. He simply let the sound fill him. When the monk asked again, The student bowed. No words were needed. Nature's language is best understood when we stop insisting on understanding in the usual way. You can sit beside a river and never know how many gallons of water flow past in an hour, yet still feel its lesson. That movement can be strong without being hurried. That persistence can shape even the hardest stone. If you watch clouds long enough, you will see that they never cling to one form. They drift, change, dissolve, reform. This is the same lesson as impermanence, but taught in a way that bypasses the intellect and goes straight into the bones. Nature also teaches presence. A bird is not half in this moment and half in tomorrow's. It sings now, flies now, eats now. The tree is not rushing to become taller. It grows at the pace of its own roots. When you are in nature, even a small patch of it, you are reminded that you too belong to this pace. Here is a practice you can try. Choose a place where you can sit quietly outside, or even by a window with a view of something natural, a tree, a patch of grass, a stretch of sky. Set aside at least 10 minutes. During that time, resist the urge to check your phone, to think about what you will do next, to name or label what you see. Simply let the sights, sounds, and scents come to you. Notice the details you might usually miss. The way light changes color as clouds pass. The way leaves tremble differently in a strong gust than in a soft breeze. Over time, you will notice that your mind begins to settle in a way that feels different from sitting indoors. Nature's rhythms start to seep into you, slower, steadier, more forgiving. I once visited a small fishing village where the people's lives were tied to the tide. They worked when the sea allowed and rested when it did not. A fisherman told me, "The ocean does not care about my schedule. I have to learn hers." There is wisdom in that surrender, in letting the world's natural rhythm guide you instead of always trying to bend it to your will. In our modern lives, we often fight nature's language. We light the night until it is as bright as day. We rush meals that took seasons to grow. We measure life by minutes instead of moons. But even in the middle of a city, you can step back into the older rhythm. You can look up at the same moon your ancestors saw. You can watch the rain trace lines down a window. You can pause long enough to feel the air shift at dusk. And here's the deeper truth. When you listen to nature's language, you are really listening to yourself. The pulse of your heart is an echo of the tide. The rise and fall of your breath mirrors the wind. The warmth of your skin is the sun carried inward. You are not separate from the natural world. You are part of its conversation. In the next part, we will explore how gratitude naturally arises when you live in this awareness, and how gratitude in Zen is not just a feeling, but a way of walking through the world. But for now, remember, the earth speaks in the turning of leaves, in the rhythm of waves, in the silence between bird calls. All you need to do is listen. Part 19. Gratitude as a Zen Path. Gratitude in Zen is not a list you write at the end of the day, though that can be a helpful doorway. It is not merely a polite thank you spoken out of habit. Gratitude in Zen is a way of moving through the world, a way of seeing. It is the practice of recognizing that each breath, each sip of water, each step beneath the sky is a gift that was never owed to you. When you see in this way, gratitude stops being an occasional feeling and becomes the ground you walk on. The masters often taught gratitude without naming it. They bowed to the floor before entering a room. They placed a single grain of rice back into the serving bowl so as not to take more than they needed. They treated even worn sandals or a chipped cup as worthy of care because they understood. Nothing lasts forever, and nothing is guaranteed. One teacher told his students, "If you wish to be happy, be grateful, and if you wish to be grateful, notice." Noticing is the root. You cannot be grateful for what you have not truly seen. Think of a cup of tea. Most of the time, you might drink it without thought. But pause for a moment and follow its story backwards. The leaves grown under the sun, the rain that fed them, the hands that picked and dried them, the ship that carried them, the store that sold them, the hands that prepared them for you. Suddenly, you realize that the tea is not just tea. It is the world itself gathered into your cup. How could you not feel gratitude? This is what Zen calls interbeing, the understanding that everything is connected, that nothing exists in isolation. When you eat a bowl of rice, you are eating the farmer's labor, the sun's warmth, the earth's nutrients, the water's generosity. Gratitude flows naturally from seeing these connections. There is a practice in some temples called the gratitude bowl. Each morning, before the first meal, monks place a small empty bowl in front of them. They sit in silence, imagining it filling with the many things they are thankful for. The food they will eat, the air they breathe, the roof over their heads, the people who came before them. Then, when the actual food is served, it feels like a continuation of that unseen offering. You can create your own gratitude bowl at home. It doesn't have to be literal. It can be a moment before each meal where you silently thank everything that brought this food to your plate. It can be a few breaths of appreciation before you open a door and step outside. Gratitude, when practiced daily, changes the texture of your life. It makes what you have feel like enough. It turns routine moments into sacred ones. It softens envy and replaces it with wonder. I once knew a man who began every morning by thanking three things: the bed that held him through the night, the water that cleansed him, and the people he loved. He told me, it's impossible to start the day angry when you start it grateful. But gratitude is not only for the pleasant things. In Zen, we are also invited to be grateful for the challenges, because they too are teachers. A difficult person can teach patience. A failure can teach humility. Loss can teach us the value of what remains. This does not mean pretending to enjoy suffering. It means bowing to life as it is, without demanding that it be otherwise before you appreciate it. Even the bitter parts of life are part of the meal. If you wish to deepen your gratitude practice, you can try this. Begin and end your day with thanks. In the morning, thank the day for arriving. At night, thank it for what it gave you, even if it was only the chance to try again tomorrow. Thank silently. Throughout the day, when you touch something, a cup, a pen, a steering wheel, thank it in your mind for serving you. Thank openly. When someone does something for you, no matter how small, look them in the eyes and let your gratitude be clear. Gratitude slows you down. You cannot rush past something you are truly appreciating. And in slowing down, you open the door to the same presence we have been cultivating throughout this journey. There is a saying, enough is a feast. When you live with gratitude, you begin to see that you already have enough, and often more than enough. You stop measuring life by what is missing and start feeling the fullness of what is already here. In the next part, we will explore how this fullness, this sense of enough, prepares you to meet life's sudden changes with grace. Because gratitude is not only for when the table is full, it is also for when the table is bare, and you can still say, I am alive, I can breathe, I can begin again. But for now, remember, gratitude is not something you feel only when life is kind. It is something you offer, like a bow to life in all its forms. Part 20. When life changes overnight. No matter how steady our days may feel, change always waits just beyond the edge of what we can see. It may arrive quietly, the slow fading of a familiar season, the gradual shift of a friendship into memory. Or it may arrive all at once, a phone call in the middle of the night, a diagnosis, a sudden loss, or unexpected beginning. Sometimes, life changes so quickly that the person who wakes in the morning is not the same person who falls asleep at night. Zen does not promise to shield us from these changes. It does not offer a way to control them. Instead, it teaches us how to meet them without collapsing, how to bend without breaking, how to step into the unknown with a steady heart. The first step is acceptance. Acceptance does not mean you agree with what has happened, or that you do not feel pain. It means you stop using your energy to fight the fact that it is real. You bow to reality, even when it is unwelcome, because bowing is the only way to begin walking forward again. I once heard the story of a temple that caught fire. The monks tried to save what they could, but most of the buildings were reduced to ash. In the days after, people from nearby villages came to offer help. One visitor said to the abbot, "You must be heartbroken." The abbot nodded. "Yes, I am. And now I must sweep the ashes." His words were not cold, they were clear. There was grief, and there was also the next step. Both existed together. When change comes suddenly, the mind often wants to cling to the before. We replay the last normal moment, the last conversation, the last day when things felt certain. But Zen teaches that holding on too tightly to the past is like trying to hold water in your hands. The harder you squeeze, the faster it slips away. Instead, we can open our hands, let the water flow through. Feel it fully while it is here, and let it go when it must. One way to practice this in the midst of upheaval is to return to the smallest, most tangible things. When the future feels too large to face, make a cup of tea. Feel the warmth in your palms. Watch the steam curl upward. When the mind races with what if, focus on the sound of your own breath, the ground beneath your feet, the sunlight or the shadow in the room. In these moments, you are not solving the change, you are giving yourself a place to stand while you learn how to live inside it. Zen also reminds us that change can carry hidden gifts. A sudden ending can make space for something you could not have imagined before. A loss can sharpen your appreciation for what remains. Even pain can deepen compassion, making you softer with others who carry their own unseen burdens. There is a saying, "Barns burnt down, now I can see the moon." It is not an invitation to celebrate loss, but to recognize that even in endings, new vistas can appear. When life changes overnight, it is natural to grieve what is gone. Grief itself is a form of love, proof that what you lost mattered. Zen asks us to let grief have its place without letting it define the whole of our lives. Here is a gentle practice for times of sudden change. Name what has shifted. Speak it out loud or write it down. This is what has changed. Name what remains. Even in loss, there is always something untouched. Your breath, the sunrise, the ground under you. Stay with what is here now. Allow yourself to feel whatever arises, without rushing to fix or explain it. In time, you will notice that life after change is not only different, it is alive in new ways. The unknown that once felt threatening can become a space of possibility. I remember a man who lost his long-time job unexpectedly. For weeks, he felt adrift, unable to imagine a future. But slowly, he began to walk each morning in the park near his home. He noticed the seasons changing, something he had never paid attention to in his working years. One day he said, "I didn't choose this change, but it has given me a life I didn't know I wanted." Of course, not all changes feel like gifts. Some will never be welcome. But even in those, Zen asks us to keep breathing, to keep showing up, to trust that the river will carry us forward even when we cannot see where it bends. In the next part, we will explore how to weave this resilience into the places we spend so much of our time, our work, and how Zen can transform even the most pressured environments into opportunities for mindfulness and balance. But for now, remember, you cannot stop the night from falling, but you can light a lantern and you can keep walking. Part 21, Zen at Work. Work is where many of us spend the largest portion of our waking lives. For some, it is a place of creativity and purpose. For others, it is a source of stress, deadlines, demands, constant communication, endless lists of tasks that seem to grow faster than they can be completed. In the language of Zen, work is neither enemy nor savior. It is simply another part of the path, a field in which you can plant seeds of mindfulness, presence, and balance. The challenge is that work often pulls us into a state of constant reaction. Emails arrive, problems appear, people ask for answers. You respond, you move to the next thing, you try to keep pace. Before you know it, hours have passed and you have been breathing shallowly, shoulders tense, thoughts scattered. Zen invites us to slow the inside pace even when the outside pace is fast. It is the same principle we explored in earlier parts, the still pond beneath the surface waves. There is a story of a potter in a small mountain village. His work was in high demand. Customers traveled for days to buy his bowls. Yet when visitors came to watch him work, they were surprised by his pace. He moved steadily, but never hurried. He would shape the clay, pause, breathe, shape again. When asked how he could work so calmly with so many orders, he said, "If I rush, the clay remembers. A rushed bowl never feels the same in the hand." Your work may not be with clay, but the same truth applies. The quality of your presence leaves a trace on what you create, whether it is a physical object, a conversation, a decision, or a piece of writing. Here are some ways to bring Zen into your work. 1. Begin with a moment of arrival. Before opening your computer or starting your first task, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Let your body settle into your chair or stance. Remind yourself, I am here now. 2. Focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking scatters the mind. Even if your work requires switching between tasks, give your full attention to the one in front of you before moving to the next. 3. Use transitions as mini meditations. Walking to a meeting, waiting for a document to load, refilling your water. Let these be moments to reconnect with your breath instead of filling them with more stimulation. 4. Practice mindful communication. When speaking, listen fully before responding. When writing, pause before sending to ensure your words are clear and kind. 5. End with closure. Before leaving work, take a minute to review what you've done. Acknowledge it, then consciously let it rest until the next day. I once worked with a man in a high-pressure corporate role who began starting each meeting with 30 seconds of silence. At first, his colleagues found it odd, but soon they noticed the meetings became calmer and more productive. "It's like we all take a breath together before diving in," he said. Workplaces often run on urgency, but urgency is not the same as effectiveness. In fact, constant urgency erodes focus and drains creativity. Zen at work is not about slowing productivity. It's about slowing the mind enough that your actions are deliberate rather than frantic. It also means respecting your own limits. A field cannot produce harvest after harvest without time to rest. Neither can you. Small breaks, a walk outside, a few moments to stretch, a drink of water taken without rushing, are not luxuries. They are maintenance for the body and mind that do the work. Another layer of Zen at work is learning to let go of what you cannot control. You may not be able to change every deadline, every request, or every decision, but you can control the way you meet them. You can choose to respond rather than react, to focus on the quality of your own effort rather than the impossibility of perfection. And sometimes, Zen at work is about finding meaning in what seems ordinary. The monk sweeping leaves does not sweep only to clear the ground. He sweeps to practice presence. You too can turn repetitive tasks into a meditation. Typing with awareness of your hands, organizing with awareness of your breath, answering calls with the intention to bring calm into your voice. In the end, work becomes not just a place to earn a living, but a place to live your practice. Each task becomes an opportunity to return to yourself, to anchor in the present, to embody the values you wish to carry into the rest of your life. In the next part, we will explore what happens when you take this return to center skill and apply it again and again, learning to come back to yourself no matter how many times you drift away. But for now, remember, you may not choose every task, but you can choose the way you do it. And the way you do it shapes the life you are living. Part 22. The Art of Returning. Life is not a straight path. It bends, loops, and sometimes leads you into thickets where you cannot see the way ahead. Your mind is the same. One moment you are present, breathing deeply, grounded in this instant, and the next you are tangled in thoughts about tomorrow's work, yesterday's mistakes, or fears that have no date at all. This drifting is natural. In Zen, we do not expect the mind to stay fixed in perfect awareness forever. Instead, we learn the art of returning, of coming back to the present as many times as it takes. Think of the ocean. Even the calmest bay feels the pull of tides. The water moves in and out, over and over. Your attention is like that water. It will flow away, then back. The art is not to freeze it in place, but to guide it gently home each time. In the monastery where I once stayed for a season, there was a small wooden gate at the entrance to the meditation hall. No matter where you had been, sweeping leaves, cooking rice, speaking to a fellow monk, you had to pass through that gate before entering the hall. It was a simple frame, nothing ornate, but it became a symbol, a reminder to leave behind whatever you had been holding. Worries, conversations, plans, they were not forbidden, only set down for a while. Each time you return to the present moment, you walk through your own invisible gate. Maybe your gate is a single deep breath. Maybe it is the feel of your feet on the floor, or the sound of a bird outside your window. These small anchors are the doorways you step through, again and again, to come back home. Many people feel frustrated when they notice they've drifted off. They think, I should be able to focus, I'm failing at mindfulness. But in Zen, the moment you notice you've drifted is not failure, it is success. It means you have woken up. That instant of recognition is already a return. Here's a gentle practice. Sit comfortably and close your eyes. Focus on your breath. When your mind drifts, and it will, notice it without judgment. Softly say in your mind, come back. Return to your breath. Do this for 10 minutes. You may drift away dozens of times. That is fine. Each return is like a bird finding its way back to its nest. In daily life, the art of returning can be practiced anywhere. In traffic, when frustration rises. In the kitchen, when your mind spins with to-do lists. In conversation, when you notice you've stopped listening and started planning your reply. The more you practice, the shorter the distance between drifting and returning becomes. At first, you may wander for hours before you notice. Later, you will catch yourself within minutes. Eventually,
The awareness becomes so close to the drifting that you can return almost instantly. Why is this art so important for modern stress relief? Because stress is often not caused by what is happening now. It's caused by the story you are telling yourself about it. Returning to the present moment interrupts the story. It gives you space to respond with clarity instead of reacting with fear or habit. Imagine you are carrying a heavy bucket of water. The farther you walk, the heavier it feels. But if you set it down for even a moment, your arms rest, your breath steadies, and you can pick it up again with more ease. Returning to the present is like setting the bucket down. There is also a deeper dimension. When you return often enough, you start to sense that the present is not just a pause between the past and future, it is the only place you have ever truly lived. All your joys and sorrows, all your choices and loves have unfolded here, in this single breath, repeated endlessly in different forms. The art of returning is the art of remembering this truth. In Zen poetry, there is a verse. No matter how far the moon wanders through the sky, its reflection always returns to the quiet pond. You are the moon, and the present moment is your pond. No matter how far you drift, you can return. And every return makes the water clearer. As we move to the next part, we will explore how this returning does not just bring peace to you, it ripples out into your relationships, subtly shifting the way you connect with others. But before that, take a breath now. Feel where you are sitting. Hear the sounds around you. Notice that you have already returned. Part 23, Zen in Relationships. When you learn the art of returning to yourself, something quiet but profound begins to happen. The way you touch the lives of others changes. Stress in modern life often feels like a private storm, but in truth, it is rarely contained. It leaks into our voices, our gestures, and the spaces between our words. If you carry tension, those around you feel it, even if you never speak of it. The opposite is also true. Your calm, your steadiness, your presence can soothe others without a single instruction or lecture. Zen teaches that relationships are not separate from your practice. They are the field in which your awareness, patience, and compassion are tested and refined. I remember an elderly monk named Daishi who oversaw the monastery garden. He was not known for giving long talks. Instead, his teaching was in how he was with people. If you approached him with a question, he would look at you fully, not glancing away, not searching for the next task, just there. It was as if your words were pebbles dropped into the clear water of his attention, and the ripples had time to spread without interruption. Most of us do not listen like that. We listen while thinking of our reply. We listen while checking our phone. We listen while preparing to defend ourselves. But presence, the kind cultivated in Zen, has no agenda. It is a spacious listening, without hurry, without pushing toward the next point. And in that space, something rare happens. The other person feels safe. When you return to yourself in the middle of a conversation, you create a bridge. You are no longer just reacting from old habits or fears. You are choosing how to respond. A sigh can be replaced with a nod. An argument can soften into curiosity. Silence, instead of feeling cold, can feel like shared breathing. Here's a simple relationship practice from Zen. When someone is speaking to you, take one slow breath before you answer. This is not about dramatic pauses or control. It's about giving your mind the chance to settle, so your words come from awareness rather than reflex. Over time, this habit reshapes the tone of your connections. People feel less like they are in a contest and more like they are in a conversation.
Zen also teaches us about the impermanence of roles. Today, you may be the teacher. Tomorrow, the student. One moment, you are comforting a friend. The next, you are the one seeking comfort. This fluidity helps dissolve the pride or defensiveness that often fuels conflict. When you approach relationships with the humility that all beings are walking their own difficult path, compassion blooms naturally. You stop demanding that others carry your expectations perfectly. You start seeing their struggles, their blind spots, and their beauty with equal clarity. And in this clarity, there is forgiveness, not just for them, but for yourself. One day, while raking leaves in the monastery courtyard, I saw Daishi speak to a young monk who had made a mistake in the garden layout. Instead of scolding, he simply said, "Next time, we'll try another way." Then they bent together over the soil, rearranging the stones in silence. Later, I asked him why he hadn't corrected the boy more firmly. He smiled, brushing the dirt from his hands. "Because he will remember my kindness longer than my instruction." In our own lives, we have the same choice. Do we want to be remembered for the sharpness of our words or for the steadiness of our presence? You may wonder, what does this have to do with stress relief? Everything. Because much of our stress is born not from events themselves, but from the friction of unmet expectations in our relationships. When we practice returning to presence with others, that friction eases. We stop building walls of resentment brick by brick, and instead, we notice the open sky between us. If you wish to integrate Zen into your relationships starting today, try this small experiment. When you feel irritation towards someone, pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Ask yourself silently, what are they carrying right now that I cannot see? This question shifts you from judgment to empathy, from defense to curiosity. It is not about excusing harmful behavior. It is about seeing the full humanity of the person before you, even when they are difficult to be with. Over weeks and months, these small shifts accumulate. Your home feels lighter. Your workplace feels less like a battlefield. Even casual exchanges at the grocery store become warmer. Zen in relationships is not about being perfectly calm or endlessly agreeable. It is about meeting each interaction as a fresh moment, free from the weight of the last conversation. It is about returning, not just to yourself, but to the shared space between you and another, again and again, until it becomes natural. And here is the quiet miracle. When you practice this, you are not the only one who changes. Others begin to mirror your presence. They slow down, they soften, they return. In the next part, we will explore how Zen presence, once established within and between people, can extend outward into the larger movements of life, your work, your community, even the way you meet the unknown. For now, let us end this part with a breath, feeling the gentle connection between your own stillness and the hearts of those around you. Part 24, Zen in the Flow of Life. When Zen seeps into your relationships, it does not stop there. Like water, it keeps moving, slipping into the spaces of your work, your home, your decisions, your way of walking through the day. Daishi once told me, Zen is not a corner of life. It is the current running beneath it all. At first, I thought he meant meditation, sitting quietly, eyes lowered, the sound of the wind. But over time, I understood that he was speaking about something much larger, the art of living in a way where nothing is left outside your awareness. In the monastery, the flow of life was visible in the rhythm of the day. Morning bells, sweeping the courtyard, tending the garden, preparing meals, chanting at dusk. These were not tasks to complete, they were currents to move with. In the outside world, the rhythm is different. There are deadlines, messages, traffic, news, and interruptions. But Zen does not require you to escape them. It asks you to move through them differently. When you work, work with your whole attention. When you rest, rest without guilt. When you listen, listen as if the moment will never come again. This is the flow of life. Not a perfect schedule, but a way of aligning your mind so that even when the outer world pulls and twists, your center remains steady. I once met a fisherman who lived by a rocky coast. He had never read a Zen text, but his life was soaked in its spirit. He rose before dawn, felt the tides, and adjusted his nets. He worked with the sea's moods, not against them. When storms came, he mended ropes instead of cursing the weather. When the sea was calm, he set out without hurry, knowing the fish would come in their time. Some days, he told me, I bring home nothing, but I never bring home anger. That, to me, was Zen in the flow of life. To meet each day as it is, not as you demand it to be. In our own modern days, this is harder because we carry the idea that life should match our plans. We want the weather to suit our picnic, the traffic to clear for our meeting, the world to bend toward our convenience. When it doesn't, we tighten, we resist, we suffer. But if we treat life like the fisherman treats the tide, something shifts. We begin to notice what each moment actually offers instead of what it withholds. Here's a small practice for flowing with life. In the morning, before you pick up your phone or speak to anyone, take a quiet breath and say to yourself, "Today, I will meet whatever comes." It is a simple vow, but it changes how you greet the hours ahead. When an obstacle appears, instead of thinking, "Why now?" you begin to think, this too is part of the river. When an unexpected kindness arrives, you savor it without clutching at it. And when the day ends, you rest knowing you moved with the current rather than fighting it. Zen in the flow of life is also about understanding that everything is connected. The way you speak to a stranger can echo in ways you'll never see. The way you wash a cup can shape the calm in your kitchen. The way you carry yourself through a hallway can set the tone for an entire meeting. Once you realize this, every small action becomes worthy of your care. Daishi used to arrange stones in the garden not only for beauty, but for the path of the rainwater. If the water runs well here, he said, the plants over there will flourish. He taught me that life is not a chain of isolated events, but an intricate web where one mindful touch can nourish far beyond what you see. Living in this awareness softens the edges of stress. You stop measuring your days only by achievements and start valuing them by alignment, by how closely your actions matched your deeper values. There will still be storms. There will still be days when the current feels against you. But when you have learned to float rather than thrash, to guide rather than grip, even those days will not pull you under. If you are listening to this now, perhaps your own life feels like a river running too fast. Pause. Feel the breath moving in your body, an invisible tide, rising and falling without your command. It is proof that you already know how to flow. From here, you can begin to carry this presence into the hours that follow. In conversation, flow by giving space for the other to finish. In work, flow by taking breaks before you burn out. In decision, flow by waiting until the water clears before you step. The fisherman told me once, "I never fight the sea. I respect her moods. That way, I can return to her again tomorrow." May we learn to treat life with the same respect, so we can return to it day after day without bitterness. In the next part, we will bring all these threads together, the self, the relationships, the flow, into one simple truth about living with less stress and more peace wherever you are. For now, rest in the quiet knowing that you are part of the river, and the river is already carrying you home. Part 25, The Circle of Zen. There is a quiet truth that lingers when the lessons of Zen have been lived, not just learned. Everything that begins returns. Every step forward is also a step back to where you started, but with new eyes. In the earliest days of my journey, I thought Zen was a destination, a mountain to climb, a point of stillness at the top where all doubts would vanish. I imagined that once reached, nothing could disturb me again. But Daishi once smiled and said, "There is no mountain, or rather, there are many mountains, and they are all circles." I did not understand then. Now I do. Zen does not carry you away from life. It leads you deeper into it until you arrive at the same places, the same people, the same moments, but you meet them differently. I have seen this circle in myself. In my youth, I hurried through mornings, chasing tasks and deadlines. I thought efficiency was the highest virtue. Now, I still greet the morning, but instead of racing ahead, I listen to the sound of the kettle, the creak of the floor, the first bird outside the window. The tasks are still there, but so is the life between them. I have seen this circle in others. A friend once came to me in heartbreak. She wanted the pain to be over. Months passed and the pain softened, though it left her changed. One day, she met someone new and her heart opened again. Not because she forgot the old wound, but because she had learned to carry it without letting it harden her. She returned to love, but as a different woman. Zen turns every ending into a return. When a tree sheds its leaves, it is not dying. It is circling back to the deep rest that will prepare it for spring. When a conversation ends, it leaves behind a silence that is not empty, but full of everything that was shared. The circle also means that what you give out returns to you, in some form at some time. Kindness you offered without thought finds its way back through the kindness of another. Patience you practiced in a tense moment becomes the patience someone offers you when you falter. Even your smallest acts, unseen by you, ripple outward until they meet you again. Daishi told me a story from his youth. When he was a novice, he often swept the temple courtyard. He loved the work, though few noticed it. One rainy day, an elderly woman arrived, shivering, her sandals heavy with mud. She stepped onto the clean, dry stones, and tears filled her eyes. "I thought I would have to walk through filth," she said, "but here it is clean." She left without giving her name. Years later, when Daishi was ill and traveling, a stranger took him in, offering food and a bed. As he ate, she said, "You do not remember me, but I remember the day you swept the temple courtyard." The circle had closed. In your own life, you will see these circles if you watch closely. They may take years to complete. They may return in shapes you do not expect, but return they will. This is why Zen teaches us to live each small moment with care. The way you close a door, the way you say goodbye, the way you take your last sip of tea. These are not trivial. They are seeds cast into the circle. As I speak to you now, perhaps you have walked with me through all these parts, from the stillness of self, through the web of relationships, into the flow of life, and now here at the closing arc. But notice, it is not truly an ending. When this story ends, you will rise, you will move into your own day or night. And there, the practice begins again. You will breathe, notice, speak, listen, choose, each a point in the circle. The old Zen masters often spoke of the enso, the painted circle. It is drawn in one breath, the brush never lifting from the paper. Sometimes the circle is closed, perfect and unbroken. Sometimes it is open, leaving a small gap where the line does not meet. The closed circle speaks of completion, harmony, and the whole of life. The open circle speaks of movement, growth, and the space for what is yet to come. I like to think we each carry such a circle within us. Some days it feels complete. Other days there is a gap, and that is where tomorrow enters. If there is one truth I would leave with you, it is this. Your life is not a straight line toward a fixed goal. It is a circle of breath, of meeting and parting, of learning and forgetting and learning again. You cannot fall out of it. Even in loss, even in mistake, you are still within the circle. So when you wake tomorrow, step into the day as though you are stepping into a familiar garden. It may have changed since yesterday, but your feet know the path. Walk it slowly, touch the leaves, feel the air. And when you lay down at night, know that the circle has carried you here to rest, so it may carry you again. Let us close with a few breaths together, not to end, but to return. Inhale, feel the air enter, the gift of the world. Exhale, offer it back, a gift in return. May you walk your circle with peace. May you meet each return with an open heart. And may the Zen within you flow into all you touch. And now, before you drift into rest, I would like to leave you with a gentle invitation. If tonight's journey has spoken to you, if these stories of Zen have brought you even a breath of calm, I invite you to stay with us. This channel is a small circle too, a circle of listeners, seekers, and friends, and each time you return, the circle grows a little stronger. You are welcome to share your thoughts, your reflections, or even the quietest whisper of how these words touched you. And if you wish to walk further with us, let your presence be known by subscribing, so that whenever a new story unfolds, you will already have a place waiting here. May this night bring you peace. May tomorrow greet you kindly. And may we meet again in the stillness between words.